Hildi, we're very happy you could join us tonight. Let me just quickly go through a thumbnail sketch here. Hildi was born in Canada, I think Toronto, one of the Canadian cities.
Winnipeg.
Oh, I'm sorry, Winnipeg. Well, that's even more interesting.
More remote.
Mother is actually from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Her father is from Zurich. He was, I believe, an attorney in Zurich. She went to Swiss schools and got her bachelor's from the Zurich University. And then this is a zinger. She went to the University of Georgia in Athens to get her master's, which is really a combination. So she's truly international. Had 2 passports, et cetera, et cetera. She's from Sherman. I don't know how long you been in Sherman, Hildi?
About 18 years now.
18. And Mike has some relatives in Sherman. In fact, they're the ones who created that panic over the pandemic, his family. But they got all cured now. Anyhow, Hildi started at the Historical Society up there in education, and then started with us at Keeler when Rich and I had a committee to bring in an executive director. And I think that was in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And that's the year I became president and Hildi became ED. So we've worked very closely together ever since, even though I'm no longer in that position. So with that, I'll turn it over to Hildi.
Thank you, Joe. So I'm going to go ahead. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's very nice seeing you all. I put together a few photos to sort of do the last 12 months have been very interesting for all of us. So I thought by going month by month, just a couple of pictures, that'll sort of give you a good idea of many things. One, what we have, where we are, and where how we've coped with all the challenges of 2020. So if it's okay, I'll start sharing my screen.
Sure.
Okay.
Someone has a high-pitched sound in the background.
Is it doing from beginning?
I'll find it and see if I can mute everybody. I'll let Hildi go.
Okay.
Hildi.
Yeah. Is it going from beginning, or do you see on the left the whole thing?
See it on the left.
Yeah, you just need it in a presentation.
Okay,
there you go. Beautiful.
Good. Okay. All right. So this is a photo I took today. I actually went down there for a number of reasons. This is, the photo that looks, you all know it. It's a beautiful historic site. We as a museum, we interpret, the history that happened at this historic site. And we then can speak to what happened in the town of Richfield, the state of Connecticut, and to the greater national experience. So let's start with, this was March 2020. So we do, part of our mission is education. So on a typical year, this is pre-COVID, we could manage up to 100 children on one of our, we call them full day immersive hands-on school programs. We would always say it's a classroom extension. It's not a field trip because it's a very immersive and continuous type of experience. We work closely with teachers and everything is curriculum aligned, et cetera. So this is a class from one of the Danbury schools. You see the 2 school buses here. They would pull up, then the kids, we have these pop-up classrooms. The museum is a classroom, the garden house, the barn, the visitor center, et cetera. And we have a lot of fun. So this was March of 2020. As you all know, March 2020, that's when COVID hit, right? So, as everyone else, we started trying to understand what COVID means, what the pandemic meant for us all. So obviously we had the lockdown, and then in April, we were able to a little bit open up. So April is also the anniversary of the Battle of Ridgefield, April 27th, 1777, a date, you know, I'm sure you all know. And so this is George Hancock here. And we started doing a bunch of videos, right? That's what everybody started out doing, videos, because the whole world was going to watch videos, right? So, and then Zoom, so you see here, this is actually on April 27th. We did a happy hour. We, top right, you see here is Charlie Pankanier. He would be our quiz master. Every April, we do a history trivia quiz. Typically, I was in person in the garden house, and Charlie would be the quiz master. So here, we converted everything to Zoom. This was one of our first Zoom meetings. So, you know, people look okay, I guess. And that was how we started out coping, pivoting to deal with COVID. In May is one of we do two major fundraisers a year. So May, we do the Cannonball Gala. Many of you have, you know, been supporters over the past year. So this year we couldn't, like, you know, cancel everything. We had already, a lot of you probably remember getting a save the date invitation, you know, this and that and everything. We had sponsorships, the whole thing. So we made it a gala to go. And this is Hillary Michelizzi here. So the day of, we had Sarah from Bernard's. We did a meal to go. So people would drive by, and it actually coincided with the day when people were sort of allowed to go outside again. So we had a lot of our guests that they were so excited to be able to get in their car and drive by and wave. And, you know, we started wearing masks, like this is one of the first ones. So, and the special treat was a roll of toilet paper festively packaged, right? And then again, at the time, video was the entertainment of choice. So here we have Dan Levine and Brian Perry from ACT. They put together a really cool video, which was all about using part of our history, which is the Gilbert era. So this is Catherine Prescott. She's our chief curator. And this is Julia Gilbert, a beautiful gown that she wore. The Gilberts were received at the court of St. James in England in 1926. So this is the gown she wore. And in the background, we have a big poster. So we did this whole video, right? And actually, it was a very successful fundraiser. We were one of the first ones in the town of Ridgefield. And I'm sure a number of you, you know, were attended as well. But we actually did very well. So that was great. Come June. So June is when slowly with COVID, it became clear it's a respiratory virus, and distancing. You remember the first time you heard the term social distancing? I'm assuming that, you know, the physicians among you know that word, but for us, it's like, so what is social distancing? So, you know, doing one way, wear a mask, keep 6 feet apart, right? This picture here shows Marianne Connors. As you know, we do a lot of private events or weddings on certain weekends during the season, and everything had to be canceled, of course. So how do we reopen, right? Early on, we decided that having a beautiful outdoor site campus is actually a great advantage during a pandemic, because obviously people can spread and they're outside. So we did a little photo shoot here. We popped up a bunch of tents and put out tables, and they're not more than 4 people. And here's Marianne Connor. She handles all our private rentals. And, you know, we figured, let's show people how they could, you know, gather in a socially distanced way, right? Pretty soon, it turned out that this actually is not what people were looking for. Brides didn't think it was really cool having red and blue tents pop up for a wedding. So we sort of scrapped that, and, you know, we went for bigger tents. But this is July. We usually do our Keeler Kids summer camp. Last year, we did not do it in person at all. We did Keeler Kids in a box. So this is like crafts, etc., you know, and we mailed it to the children with instructions. And then we did some virtual interaction type of camp as well. And for example, Rich Vazana, your granddaughter Pierce, she attended we worked with a very creative young woman, and she led the kids in making some really fun videos, very creative. So that was a fun thing. This is Margot McEachern here. She's our gift shop manager. So she started doing curbside, shopping, right? So this is right outside Main Street. So that was July. In August, we had already scheduled to do a play called Sisters, which explores the relationship between two women who lived at our site in the 19th century. One is white, one is black, and everything that comes along with it. So this was going to be an in-person play, and then COVID hit, so we canceled the whole thing or postponed it. Then finally, the end of August, we decided we're going to do it as a live and live streamed. So this was August the 30th, was the first time we live streamed a live event. So in the Garden House, we had 15 people in the audience. Joel, you were there too. And we had 125 people virtual, it was a Zoom platform. And we had audiences from all across the United States, including Switzerland and New Zealand. So for us, that's like, wow, virtual is really cool because it really allows us to, grow our audience reach. We never have an international audience for us, right? But now doing all this, it's a wonderful way to grow beyond, the geographic confines of Richland region. And now we can actually have people from all over. So this was very successful. It is also then turned into, we're doing a couple of virtual talk series, and one is called Hard History or Uncomfortable History, where we have panelists and we talk about some of the hard history that happened at our site, and that is so important that we have a discussion about. Here, the other one, Votes for Women, was an exhibit that was a town partnership. We do a lot of partnerships with other town organizations. So this was with the library, the League, the Richfield Historic Society, and the Daughters of the American Revolution. And it was the celebration of the 19th Amendment. Many of you probably know. So this was in the barn. So the barn is really a cool space. Again, we found out the barn is perfect for hybrid type of, during a pandemic, right? So because we can open up all the open the doors, open the windows, it's one way pre-registration. I got a little pushback initially when I said, this is just going to, we're totally going to follow the rules here. So it takes, as you know, it always takes a while to people to get used to new ways of doing things, right? New formats, but this was really successful. It really went well. September, we started doing our Music at the Museum outdoor concert. Well, actually, Lori Carnegie and I, Lori's, the ED at the RSO. So she and I talked about how could we give performers a way to perform outside. And I said, Lori, let's just have them play here at the visitor center on the patio. So the whole thing started with giving RSO musicians a chance to perform and, outdoors, right? Rather than being cooped up somewhere inside. And, we said, we can't guarantee an audience. It's not about an audience, it's about you performing, right? So maybe you might be serenading the trees or the stone wall, but by and by, we really got a nice turnout, right? And so probably Rich and Carol are over here, and Joel, you would always be here, and some of you might have attended, but over the summer, it was a nice way to allow people to come out and enjoy some live music. October, we did our HOH, that's this sign here, that's Hands-on History in the Barn. Again, because now we knew that the barn really worked well as hybrid, this really worked out well. And depending on how much time, how I'm doing time-wise, I was, see if I could pull up. Let me see, I just want to show, where's our website? Okay, let me do it later. Okay, so we did our Hands-on History, that's our annual October exhibit in the barn. And now we also did an online component. And on our website, it's really cool where you can do a whole exhibit online. And learn a lot about. Again, that's a new experience. That's a new visitor experience that we previously had not, never offered. So this was another one, you know, a lot of people are, I also started calling the silver linings of COVID, right? On the left, this is Paul Schmidt, and he was, this was part of our Ghost of Ridgefield program, which it's a collaboration with us and the now defunct Discovery Center. And I'm sure that all of you have gone to the Discovery Centers, you know, Ghost of Ridgefield in the past. Now, you know, we brought it and we very successfully implemented it on our site. And again, Ghost of Ridgefield is ideal. It's outside, small groups. It was all pre-registered. Everybody had to be masked up, you know, and it was very successful. It was a lot of fun. Then in, why is this? Here we go. November. So November, we started doing our Tavern tasting series. So this is Catherine Prescott here again. She's our chief curator, and she is seated in the tap room, right? It was all about creating now, by November, we had figured out, like along with many other people, that live virtual is the way to go. Videos is, you know, there's 5 million gazillion videos that nobody's going to click on videos anymore. The real thing is to do live, interactive live. So this setup here, in the meantime, also, we had been quite successful in getting grants through Connecticut Humanities. So when the CARES Act was approved, some of the monies were actually administered through Connecticut Humanities. Some of the other monies were administered through the DCD, or some of the SBA, PPP. I mean, we applied for all those loans and grants, et cetera. And, you know, we were quite successful in getting, you know, some funding, because obviously we took quite a hit on our income. So here's Catherine with our setup. We have a really good camera here. We have Wi-Fi, you know, the microphones, et cetera. And then this is one of our tavern tastings. So after the first tavern tastings, we started partnering with the Francis Tavern Museum in Lower Manhattan. So if you haven't been there, you should at least check out their website. And when it's open again, go down there. It's a really fun museum. It's all about, you know, when General Washington was there, that's where he held his farewell speech. It is owned by the Sons of the American Revolution. And we now do our tavern tasting series jointly with Francis Tavern. So for example, we have one coming up on February the 2nd, and that's going to be all about carrots, which is an interesting topic for a tavern, but you know, that's what it's going to be. So this was November. December, we did our holiday boutique in the barn. Here we have 3 of the local artists, Tina Phillips, Chris Letcher, and I always forget this lady's name. She is, so inside the barn again, everything open. It got a little cold, but you know, it was just more like an outdoor Christmas market. And that was very successful too. That was for about a month, I think, you know, we had that going. Our traditional Christmas lunch, anything indoor, you know, we couldn't do. And by that time in November, late October, it's when we made the decision that we're not going to have any kind of indoor events at all, because it's just too much. I did not want to take the risk of possibly exposing anybody, you know. So by not doing anything indoor, that actually pushed us to really be way more creative and think outside the box in terms of outdoor and virtual. Okay, so this brings us to January of this year. This is the construction that Bill Wyman, you were talking about. This is the north side of the garden house. Here they are taking out, you know, the rocks, et cetera. So this is going to be a whole new access way, a ramp here. This was, you know, straightened out. Again, this was a grant that we received actually a year ago, but we couldn't go ahead with the construction because of COVID. So it's all, usually during the winter months, we do, you know, this kind of maintenance and restoration work. So it's nice that we can continue that. Another thing we started doing are our outdoor guided tours, right? These are a lot of fun, and you can go and sign up on our website. Everything is pre-registered, small groups, maximum 8. We do it on Saturdays, Sundays at 1 and 2. We have 2 tours. One is a highlights tour and the other one is a Gilbert's tour. And we have been getting, ever since we were able to upload our PR to the ctvisit. I think it's com or something website. We've been getting a lot of people from out of town or, from the city, etc., which is speaking, which speaks to the fact that Keeler Tavern Museum, like the Aldrich, we are economic drivers for the town of Ridgefield, right? People come here, they come to the museum, and then they go and want to eat or shop or something. Obviously now it's, it's somewhat limited, but still it's a nice way to bring new people in. Another thing that we've opened finally, you've probably all seen for 2 years now, the big sign outside the visitor center announcing our new collections, archival collection storage facility. That was a big grant we got through the DCD and part of our capital campaign. So this is what it looks like. So this photo down here is, we have now these rolling units. This is state-of-the-art archival storage facility. So mobile racks. With all the archival boxes. In the back, you see art racks back here. So we have some of Joel's wonderful Currier and Ive collections are now properly, stored back here. This is Erica. She's our curator of collections. This is a research study room. And if you come and you make an appointment with Erica, and then this is where you would be able to look at whatever archival materials, you would be requesting to see, right? I mean, just remember, we have the 7,000 glass plates, negative glass plates are in our collection that Joseph Hartman, he was a photographer and he had a studio in Ridgefield in the 1880s, 90s, that time. So he was instrumental. He shot beautiful photos of Ridgefield we have a whole bunch of different themes. It's a wonderful collection, and we've been, using it for various purposes. Then this is just this morning. So we have done a lot of virtual field trips. That's one of our things we're pushing is delivering high quality interactive classroom experience for children. As you know, the schools have been like a yo-yo. It's, in classroom, fully remote, and anything in between, right? It is really challenging. But having here Melissa Houston, she's our director of education. So again, this is our setup. So she sits here, and then, the kids are on the screen here, and she is live from inside the museum. So this really has been working well. We have pivoted, literally, we're not doing anything in person currently. Maybe once it gets warmer, it'll change again. But currently, all our school programs are being delivered, in a virtual format. And here, this is one of our upcoming programs tomorrow. You recognize the gentleman here who's going to be our presenter. And again, it's one of our virtual talks, which have been really successful in terms of, drawing an audience. And also people enjoy, and you don't have to get in the car. You can, you can eat, you can drink, who cares what you're wearing, right? It's a nice way of being able to attend some of these programs. And we are not we're planning on continuing all our virtual programming.
Joel, how old is that picture?
Joel, how old is the picture? I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, he was definitely a lot younger.
So
he had more hair.
So I can stop sharing.
Joel, you're muted.
And
Oh,
I'm
no,
happy-
I
I'm
feel like
happy-
that guy in the ad, right? It's workplace, right? No, that was taken a couple years ago, Rich. Actually, I could say it was yesterday. I don't change that much. All the coffee I'm drinking, it just keeps you going.
So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. If you're muted, you probably have to unmute yourself, or if you put them in the chat.
Hildi and Joel, for many years, the only thing I knew about the Keeler Tavern, 2 things. There was a cannonball on its side, and also you did a Christmas luncheon, and that was all I ever heard about the Keeler Tavern Museum. And ever since you 2 guys got together, it's amazing what you've done, and you can to be congratulated for that.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
I mean, Joe was
Hildi?
also on Charlie Pankinier's team for history trivia.
That's right.
So That
That
was
was a
always a
great
lot of
team.
fun.
Yeah, that was a great thing. Unfortunately, Charles has passed away.
Yes,
Hilda,
yes.
I have a question. Are there any future plans, or is this pretty well put aside now as far as any archaeological digs around the tavern? Are you all pretty satisfied that there's nothing more to find, or are there plans in the works to do something?
So that's a good question. Thank you, Jim. So from what I understand, there has been, and this was before my time, and maybe Joel, you even know more about it, but there have been talks with, the archaeological department. Usually it's from, obviously the state, and it
Mhm.
has been determined that on our site, there's really nothing much more to be found.
Okay.
So, maybe you're thinking of the skeletons that might be from the Revolutionary, the Battle of Ridgefield,
Mhm.
that were found along, Main Street. As far as I understand, there have been some investigations done, but it was determined that there's really no, nothing worthwhile continuing, so to speak, right?
Yeah, Jim, they used a radar system,
Yeah.
penetrating
assume.
radar, and
Yeah.
they really didn't find it. But I'm thinking of burying a few things just to keep the thing going.
Well, if you have any skeletons in your closet, maybe we could use them. Hildi, this was an outstanding presentation. Thanks a lot for that. Now, we also have the Historical Society. And what actually is what they do that might be different from what you do, and how much overlap actually is there?
Yeah. So it all comes back to your mission, right? So our mission is to preserve and educate and then interpret the history that happened at lot number 2 or Keeler Tavern Museum and History Center, right? So it's a pretty narrow footprint actually, but and the beauty of our site is the richness of the history, right? I mean, it's really amazing if you think about that. A, the place never burned down, right? That B, nobody ever sold it off and tore it,
Right.
down. And C, things like, Jim, we were saying, due to, like Mr. Preston, some of the original items found their way back again, right? So that's why we have, and then also the people who actually lived there were very interesting people who made history. It's not like, boring people, but so that's why we have this richness, this breadth and depth that we can then interpret and then use that as a lens through which, we look at the town, the state, and the nation. Whereas the Richfield Historical Society, their mission is really to preserve the history of the town of Richfield. So, they collect, if you have genealogy, you go to RHS, right? They have all the records and all the houses, they are basically the historian for, the town of Richfield. Whereas we are first foremost for everything that happened at Keeler Town Museum. And then of course, that also includes, what happened at the town, but that's how the two organizations are separate. And, we partner on a lot of programs for obvious reasons. And, we love working with them, so.
Any other questions?
I agree with Joe Ellis. The change in Keeler Tavern and the mission and what they've been able to accomplish in the last 8 years has been fantastic. And Hildi, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thank you all. I mean, it really takes a village, because a nonprofit of the size or of the importance of Keeler Town Museum, it's not a one-person thing, so. And it also takes a board that has, the vision and, is really committed to reaching the potential, so. But you should all come. You should all take our outdoor guided tours. They're really a lot of fun. You probably learn something you haven't known, and sign up for our virtual talks. Like I said, Joel's on tomorrow, And, they're all free. It's a suggested donation of $5 because nobody has really figured out how to monetize virtual content. If any one of you has any insight there, shoot me an email, but I think the whole world is trying to figure out how to monetize virtual, right? So,
Yeah, just go to our website and you can register for the program tomorrow. It's at 6:30 and it's easy to register. They just want your name and your email, and they'll tomorrow sometime they're going to send you the Zoom invitation.
Yeah.
So I'd really like you people to take a look.
Do you
Hilda,
guys have a grant writer you must be getting grants, right?
We are getting grants, yes, and we just lost one grant writer. So right now I'm in the process of interviewing. Yeah, why, Joe, are you interested?
No, I don't do that anymore.
I know. But
Hilda,
yeah,
I have a question for you.
yes.
If in the foundation of the original tavern, if you go down into the basement, are there still beams that have been put in to help support the structure? Or
So
are
if you
still
go down, right,
foundation?
in the original museum, if you go down in the museum, there's the original cellar there and foundation.
No, I know.
And everything is original, the beams, and yes, so they go back to 1713.
But have any still supports been put in just to support the building or not?
We did put one in, remember, in the dining room.
Yeah.
The beam separated from the wall and the ceiling was collapsing. So that has an I-beam in it now.
Okay.
That was done maybe 5 years ago.
A little longer, but yes, that was right. But down in the basement, I think they had to put in some support, and there's some supporting pillars, metal.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
but it's really all original still. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Now, the original museum, Jim, is on the ground. It just has a very small space. They didn't
Oh,
put
you
a
don't have
basement.
there's not a full basement underneath the main
No.
house?
From
Ah,
well, I would say 75% is now, but the original front part of the building, the tavern and maybe that one room, that's right on the deck. They didn't make a basement.
okay.
Okay. Well, Hildi, again, thank you very much. You are
You're welcome.
more than welcome to continue to join us or not.
Okay, I think I'll take my leave, and I
Okay.
hope you enjoy your meeting, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thanks, Hildy.
Bye.